Okay, now in the previous portions of the short film, you've seen a series of creatures, each of which has seems to have unique speeds and actions depending on its environment. Now, here we have 4 basic creatures, and all the same type, the sock creature. The first thing you see at the beginning of the movie, which you see the most of, is this, the rolled up sock. Standard little thing, you take off your socks, crumple them up, toss them in the corner, looks sort of like this. Its behavior is it goes and it attacks anything smaller than it or anything it perceives as food. It can perceive predators, and its basic neurological system is straight down the middle. Its eyes and all its optical sensors are down here, so it moves on that in order to keep 360 degrees of vision. And it keeps itself upright because it's balancing on that mouth. It can see everything just underneath it, so it can't see things coming from above it. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to actually show this in this movie, but in the short series I may make on YouTube, I might end up showing that scenario at some point. Its basic neurological system is touch sensors all around the outside edge, and sight sensors on the green points. And for locomotion, as you saw, it just scoots along the ground. Now, its equivalent, the dwarf sock, is smaller, not as fast, and its only advantage is that it's smaller. And the main point of this is that in biological life forms, not in robotic life forms, or life, quote, forms, smaller animals generally are able to reproduce faster, so it would be logical to have a smaller version of a large creature, at least at some point. For example, large and small rodents, large and small dogs, cats, etc. The second evolution is this, the partially unrolled sock. Now, this one looks significantly different because it's simply longer. Assuming that you use this idea that you have this rolled up sock, it's rolled up to protect itself, since that brown section is, you'd assume that that gray section is harder than the rest of it, or at least stronger in some way, so that its structure would benefit it. It would leave that on the outside. This sock, however, being mostly white, would concentrate the darker area on one sector of it, and instead move by expanding and contracting its body like a snake, etc. The smaller equivalent wouldn't need to roll itself up particularly because, as you can see, its whole body is covered in the same gray color, which will make it tougher than the white part of the large one. But it's smaller and it's not able to move as quickly for that size, so it didn't need to evolve directly to this. The next evolution of that one will be shown as the unrolled sock. Not this length, but long, lanky, and able to move quicker, significantly quicker. And that's going to be the main point. With beam robotics, these are equivalent because all the robots have a single series of basic form-to-function ideals. First of all, they have to be able to find and locate a food source. As you can see, the various animals do that by hunting down their prey. For first point, case in point, we have the solar bug. Now this little guy is solar powered, so he doesn't move that quick. But what he does is this little guy looks for, this little guy's little light sensors down here, selects whichever side is brightest, and then moves it to that, it points in that direction. The antenna just is a touch sensor in order to allow it to move out of the way of any obstacles it may encounter. Now, since now for my project, I'm not going to have too many of those at the Bio Expo. So in order to save time, and since they take ages to build compared to the other robots, I've built this. Well, I'm going to be having several of these little guys. These are mouse bots. Now, mouse bots use a very simple circuit, which I'm going to show a cutaway to in a little bit. And the circuit allows the mouse bot to measure the resistance of the line in each eye. Now, these are each infrared diodes. See, And what they do is they just look at they're just light sensors. If light hits them, it increases the resistance. It has a little chip in there, which takes the resistance of the little eyes, measures the difference, and equals the difference in the engines. Now, depending on how you set the eyes, you can make it so that it goes toward or away from light. Depends on how you set it up. It has a little light back here, so that if there are any other Herbie mouse spots in the area, they will automatically chase each other and show lifelike behavior. And I'm going to quickly release it in an area that has a couple of obstacles. For example, let's put a box in its way. See the box? Okay, now I'm going to switch on the robot. Now, as you can see, it just zips straight along. I'll go retrieve it. But what it tries to do is it tries to locate a source of greater light. Now, if you look over here, we can actually track it. And as a robot, it likes to get itself stuck. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's a design flaw, and future beam roboticists may find that they don't have this problem. But the little guy is very useful, and it describes beam robotics very, very well. Now, there are several types of beam robots, as there are several types of clothing animals. For example, the most common clothing shown in almost every single scene is the shirt. The shirt is nothing more than supposed to be a creature which absorbs light in its environment and grows that way. Eventually, it would duplicate itself into two shirts and grow sort of like an algae. The equivalent, it would move itself a little bit around, with a little curling, as you saw earlier. The equivalent beam robot for that would be this little guy. Cute, huh? He's a TriMet. TriMets are useful because what they do is they take energy from this little solar panel here. They send it through this complicated little circuit called a solar engine. Send the energy to the capacitors, which once they're charged, powers the little engine. Cute little thing, it just scoots around, I videotape it, but unfortunately this camera doesn't have enough memory. It takes ages to charge it, and today is incredibly overcast. And unfortunately, thanks to the weather, it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. Now, this robot is called the Roachbot. It's a relative of the Mousebot, and I think it's a bit better for the money that you pay for it. This one's a bit better. You can buy. There's this little shop down in Kirkland. You can buy it. There's a little shop in electronic shop in Bellevue. You can buy these kits there. Lots of little robotics kits. It has a series. It has a light resistor here, up there, and a light sensor there. Same thing there. This robot simply looks around for whichever side has more light on it, and then drives toward it. Took me ages to fix the wiring. That's why the wiring in between the engines is all messy. Now this is possibly one of the simplest robots. It's called a solar roller. Now, it doesn't work too well in this environment because it requires more light than we ever get in the winter. This little guy will probably work perfectly during the summer, but until then, don't get your hopes up. Now, this is the simplest of all the robots I've built. It's a solar engine on... Hey, there, you can see it now? Okay, this little guy is a solar engine with a little spinny green thing. Now, the idea is that as long as the solar engine hasn't gotten too, old, as you can see there, the solar engine, as long as it hasn't gotten too old, after a little while it'll charge the tiny capacitor, which is, tiny. It's connected right there. And it'll charge to this, which will then spin for a little bit, and it'll provide a neat little buzz. Okay. Now, these are all lifelike robots because what they do is every single one of them demonstrates some aspect of how life seems to move or work. Now, if we want to go even simpler, there are several examples of simpler robots that also appear very lifelike. For example, I assume that everybody who's watching this has seen the Hexbug series, right? Well, if you haven't, you're about to. These little guys are Hexbugs. They're very simple. They're simply a motor and a battery. Now, what they do is the motor is a pager motor, so it vibrates. Ah, there you go. See now. Oh, you guys don't want to